The settlement built 500 meters from the gate of unfolding dawn. Above us, the perpetual gray sky, the one we've known our entire lives, is doing something impossible. A strange golden light pulses, slow and rhythmic like a colossal heart beating in the heavens. You can hear the panic in the background, shouts and screams cutting through the wind. They're not meteors. Look at the patterns. Grid formation to the north. Swarm pattern east. That's a targeted descent. People are running, scrambling for cover that won't help. What do you do when the sky itself turns against you? Inside the command tent, the air is thick with the scent of ozone and fear. Maya is hunched over the main console, her knuckles white as she grips the edge. Lorenzo stands behind her, his face illuminated by the flashing red lights of the alert system. The energy signatures are off the charts, literally. The needle on the analog gauge is bent, pinned to the far right. It's not solar, Maya mutters, her voice strained. Radiation levels are stable, but the energy. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's structured, intelligent. Lorenzo's eyes are wide. You mean it's not a natural phenomenon? She shakes her head slowly, never taking her eyes off the cascading data. Lorenzo speaks, saying, energy profiles are off the scale, Maya. Nothing from the emergence bestiary matches this. This isn't terrestrial. This is extraterrestrial incursion. Maya's eyes fixed on the main monitor showing the silent, glowing gate. They're not here for the planet. They're here for the mountain, for whatever caused the lightning, the chimes. Across the camp, families huddled in reinforced shelters. Scouts on the perimeter, weapons trembling as they aim at the sky. The air crackles with oppressive, alien energy. Then all screens flicker. No. This is an incursion. We have contact. Then, the ground beneath our feet begins to tremble. It's not an earthquake, not like the tremors we're used to. This is a deep, resonant hum. A vibration that works its way up your bones and makes your teeth ache. It's coming from the mountain. The great dormant peak that has shadowed our settlement for generations is waking up. Kai's voice is as calm as stone, emanating from the mountain's heart. They announce themselves with scans and threats. They see a prize, a meal, a heresy. They see a broken world. They do not see the gardener. This is Ascension, Year Zero, Episode 8 inside the Pocket Realm. The atmosphere thrums. Kai, clad in his suit of articulated light, walks toward the realm's entrance. The domain steward's report is delivered. Kai makes his decision. The external Camp Dawn, Observation Post Delta. 2 scouts, Finn and Grace, are manning a high-powered telescopic camera trained on the mountain's blank face. The strange thrumming has intensified. Everyone outside stops running. They turn, their faces a mixture of awe and absolute terror, to stare at the source of the sound. As Finn speaks, the readings. The solid rock is vibrating at a harmonic frequency. It's like the mountain is humming. The mountain is glowing, a faint golden aura matching the light in the sky. Grace interrupts Finn. Quiet, look. A vertical line of pure, blinding light appears on the face of the mountain. It's impossibly thin, a razor-sharp cut of brilliance against the dark rock. Then, with a sound that's not a sound, a deep, earth-shattering groan that we feel more than hear, the mountain billion-ton granite face doesn't crumble or explode. It parts. The stone grinds and splits, pulling away from that line of light, revealing not a cave or a passage, but a tunnel of swirling, incandescent energy. It looks like a portal, a doorway to another reality torn open in the side of our world. In the command tent, every sensor goes haywire, then flatlines as they're overwhelmed by the energy signature. Maya staggers, grabbing a table for support, her tactical mind unable to process the scale of the geomanipulation. Time seems to slow down. Scouts on the perimeter drop to their knees, some in prayer, some in sheer terror. Finn at the observation post fumbles the camera. Grace steadies it, her hands shaking as she zooms in on the revealed tunnel. From the depths of that glowing tunnel, a figure emerges. He is a silhouette at first, backlit by cosmic light. Then he steps into the twilight. The light suit is subtle but unmistakable, a man-shaped constellation. On his shoulder, a tiny, second source of light, his nascent soul. Finn. Whispering into his coms, voice cracking, command, host Delta. The mountain, it opened. A person has walked out. Aya overcomes, breathless. Give me a visual, now. The light is so intense that we can't make out any details, just a form walking steadily out of the energy. The telescopic feed zooms in. We see Kai's face. It is calm, serene. He looks up at the streaking alien lights, then down at the devastated land, his gaze sweeping past the distant, tiny Camp Dawn without pause. To him they are barely a footnote. As Grace talks, he's not looking at the aliens, he's looking at the ground. Like he's checking his garden after a storm. Kai's voice, though quiet, seems to carry on the wind to those with enhanced hearing or sensitive equipment. They do not acknowledge the life struggling below. Then let them learn the first lesson of this new age. The light is also fire. Kai takes his first step, moving from the threshold of the portal onto the scorched, lifeless earth of our world. And where that first foot touches the ground, something miraculous happens. The ground doesn't crack. It blooms. A perfect circle of vibrant green grass instantly springs from the dead soil. Wild flowers of a dozen impossible colors bloom in a heartbeat, their petals unfurling to the strange new light. The contrast is jarring, the vibrant life against the gray, cracked dirt that surrounds it. The settlers, just moments before fleeing in panic, are now frozen, paralyzed by the spectacle. This isn't just an alien with advanced technology. Lorenzo stares at the biological readout. Impossible. Instantaneous terraformation. Neutralizing pollutants, radiating life signatures at 300% normal. This isn't just a display of power. This is something else entirely. The being is rewriting the very rules of our reality. He's changing the world with his mere presence. Maya, eyes wide, a hypothesis clicking. He's not a soldier. He's a function. The mountain is his home, the gate is his doorway, and we've been camping on his doorstep. A voice not loud but impossibly clear, echoes in every mind, not our ears. It's a voice that feels ancient and new at the same time. The light is a gift, it says, but it is also a fire. It purifies. The figure, who we now see as a man, continues to walk. With each step, the miracle repeats. The desolate, poisoned land is revitalized in his wake. A trail of impossible life follows him. The ground softens, the dust settles. A dead, petrified tree trunk he passes suddenly sprouts new branches, then bursts forth with green leaves. You can hear gasps from the crowd. Small animals, creatures we've only seen in old data files, rabbits, squirrels, deer materialize from the new undergrowth. Looking around as if they've always been there. They seem unafraid, drawn to the walking miracle. He walks towards the settlement, his expression calm, serene. The golden light that surrounds him seems to be absorbed by the land, fueling its rebirth. He stops just a few hundred meters from the perimeter fence, the new, lush forest at his back. He looks at us, at our crumbling shelters and our worn, frightened faces. And for the first time, he speaks aloud, his voice carrying on the now gentle breeze. My name is Kai. The name itself seems to hold power, a resonance that stills the very air. He raises a hand, not in aggression, but in a gesture of proclamation. This is not an end. This is a new beginning. As he says the words, the final, greatest miracle occurs. The thick, perpetual cloud cover that has choked our sky for decades, the gray blanket that has defined our existence, begins to part. The golden light from above fades, not into darkness but into a brilliant, unfamiliar blue. Rays of actual sunlight, warm and real, break through the clouds. They strike the ground, illuminating the green grass, the new trees, the faces of the stunned settlers. For the first time in generations, the sun is shining on our world. Kai stands in its warmth, a harbinger of a new age. And we can only stare, not knowing if we should kneel in worship or run for our lives. The old world is gone. Ascension has begun. The universe is vast and full of wonders and terrors beyond our comprehension. The red alert klaxon blared through Camp Dawn, a sound no one ever got used to. Hostile entry in T-30 seconds. On the central command screen, a chilling countdown confirmed their worst fears. T-29, 28. Not with a clean rip, but like a canvas being shredded by 3 different blades simultaneously. From these violent fissures in reality, the invaders descended. First came the law of order. Thousands of crystalline drones, shimmering with an inner, cold light, emerged from a geometric tier. They began weaving, their movements impossibly precise, forming a vast, shimmering lattice that spread across the heavens, threatening to encase the entire continent. Below them, a viscous, boiling sea of purple and orange erupted from a roiling portal. This was the swarm, the manifestation of the law of creation, a tide of pure, hungry plasma that began to surge across the desolate plains, consuming rock and dust with an insatiable appetite. And then, from a third brutal wound in the sky, he fell. A single figure, clad in obsidian armor, wreathed in an aura of pure domination. The Crusader champion, avatar of the Sovereign's gaze, landed with an earth-shattering impact that sent shockwaves rippling for miles, cracking the very ground. Panic erupted in Camp Dawn. The relative peace they had fought so hard to carve out shattered in an instant. Survivors screamed, scrambling for the deepest, most fortified bunkers, the klaxon's shriek mingling with their own cries of terror. On the outer walls, young scouts, barely out of their teens, raised their rifles in a futile act of defiance. Their bullets spat into the distance, pinging harmlessly against the growing crystalline lattice miles away, each impact absorbed without a single flicker. They might as well have been throwing stones at a mountain. From the command post, Maya, her knuckles white as she gripped the console, watched the feeds from every perimeter camera. She commanded, her voice cutting through the comms, "All units, cease fire!" "You're not their target, the mountain is." Her eyes were locked on the lone figure of Kai, standing serene at the base of the colossal peak, the epicenter of this cosmic storm. Then, on the main monitor, Kai moved. Across the sky, the continent-scale lattice, a structure that defied known physics, that had been growing with terrifying speed, just stopped. For a heartbeat, it hung there, a monument to alien power. Then, it disintegrated into a fine, glittering dust, like a trillion shattered diamonds catching the light before vanishing. The 1,000 crystalline drones froze in midair. Their inner lights sputtered, and then, in perfect, horrifying unison, they imploded into microscopic specks of nothing. Not an explosion, not a crash, just gone. The panic in Camp Dawn stopped dead. The screaming ceased. People who had been clawing their way into bunkers slowly peeked out, their faces etched with disbelief. A scout on the wall, his voice trembling over the comms, was the first to speak. The crystal web, it's gone. Just gone. And the crystal soldiers, they just vanished. In the analytics hub, Lorenzo, a tech prodigy who lived for data, stared at his sensor readings, his mouth agape. The ghosts of the drones had disappeared from his screen, leaving behind no trace. No explosive energy, he muttered, running the diagnostics again and again. No heat signature, no residual radiation. It was a systemic collapse. He didn't fight them. He unmade their structure. Maya watched Kai's calm figure on the screen, a solitary silhouette against the vast, empty sky. Awe and a chilling understanding dawned on her face. He solved them, she whispered to herself, like a math problem. Before the camp could even process this first miracle, the second threat surged forward. The plasma tide of the swarm, an ocean of ravenous energy, roared towards the mountain. It was the law of creation run rampant, a force that built itself by consuming everything in its path. In response, Kai didn't raise a shield or unleash a counterattack. Instead, he opened his hands, and from his palms erupted a cascade of pure, incandescent energy, a torrent of light brighter than a sun. He didn't aim it at the swarm. He offered it. The plasma predators, driven by their fundamental nature, surged towards this feast, consuming the light with greedy, roaring gulps. The tide swelled, growing brighter, hotter, more powerful than ever. Then, just as the swarm reached its absolute peak, Kai closed his fist. He triggered the reversal. The logic of their existence was inverted. The energy they had just consumed became a poison. For a spectacular, horrifying instant, the entire swarm glowed with impossible intensity, then it folded in on itself. The plasma predators were unmade from existence, their very matter deconstructed. A collective gasp swept through Camp Dawn. The blinding light of the energy cascade, seen for miles, was replaced by a sudden absolute darkness on the plains. It was a visual and sensory whiplash. At an observation post on the camp's highest tower, Finn lowered his military-grade binoculars, his eyes dazzled and watering. What was that?" he stammered, blinking away the phantom sunspots. Did he feed them until they burst?" Grace, a field medic with an unnervingly calm demeanor, shook her head slowly, her gaze fixed on the now dark plains. "No, they didn't burst. They were deleted. It's like he wrote a line of code they couldn't disobey. He gave them a command their bodies couldn't refuse. An elderly survivor, a former physics professor who rarely left the archives, stumbled out from a bunker, drawn by the impossible light show. He stared at the now silent planes, his old eyes wide with a terrifying comprehension. He turned their greatest strength into a suicide pact, the professor rasped, his voice filled with an academic's awe. That's not warfare. That's alchemy. That's a god playing with the periodic table of violence. Now, only one enemy remained. The Crusader champion, the Sovereign's gaze, stood alone amidst the desolation. It had watched the other two forces be erased with an unnerving stillness. Then it moved. It didn't run, it didn't fly. It simply vanished and reappeared directly in front of Kai. Its obsidian armor absorbing all light. Its arm blurred, swinging a blade made of pure null space, a weapon that didn't cut matter but erased it from reality. The strike was faster than thought, a guaranteed kill, and Kai caught it. He raised one hand, his fingers closing around the champion's wrist, stopping the blade inches from his face. The impact created no sound, no shockwave, just a perfect, terrible stillness. The champion, a being of immense physical power, was held immobile by a boy, who looked like he hadn't even braced for the impact. Kai's gaze was flat, impassive. He applied the Event Horizon pinion. In Camp Dawn, this was the most visceral, terrifying moment. They saw the champion's monstrous size, its terrifying weapon that warped the light around it. They saw Kai impossibly stop it with one hand. They couldn't see the physics-defying horror Kai was unleashing. They didn't see the microscopic singularities, the miniature black holes, spawning inside the champion's armor, at its every joint, within its very core. They only saw the result. The mighty champion, the avatar of conquest, began to buckle. Its obsidian armor cracked, not from external force, but from an irresistible pressure from within. It folded, twisted, and compressed, its colossal form shrinking with a grotesque, silent implosion until all that remained was a small, crushed ball of hyperdense matter that fell to the dust with a soft thud. A wave of nausea and sheer, primal awe washed over the camp. A young mother, clutching her child tightly in the entrance of a bunker, whispered, her voice trembling. He didn't even move his feet. Lorenzo, in the analytics hub, ripped his headset off, his face pale with a mixture of horror and reverence. Spatial compression. Applied internally, he breathed, his voice barely audible. She sank into her chair, her body trembling, completely overwhelmed. The reality of what she had just witnessed crashed down on her. We've been trying to survive the apocalypse, she said to the silent room. He's been transcending it. We're not even playing the same game. We're not even in the same universe anymore. On the screen, Kai stood amidst the silent, alien-free battlefield, utterly unscathed. The dust settled around his still form. He paid no mind to the remnants of the armies he had just erased. Instead, he looked up, his gaze piercing through the atmosphere, towards orbit, towards the unseen masters who had sent their pawns to test him. And in Camp Dawn, every single soul, from the hardened soldier to the terrified child, watched his image on their screens, their breath held, waiting to see what a god does next. The sky became a terrible canvas painted with alien fleets. But amidst the desolation, a lone figure stood. Kai. He raised his hand, his expression serene, almost detached, and slowly closed it into a fist. Far above, in the silent cold of orbit, dozens of motherships, each the size of a city, simply vanished. Not an explosion, but a deletion. One moment they were there, the next, they were not. He didn't use energy, he didn't command fire, he simply revoked their reality. With the immediate threat gone, a new message was sent, not of violence, but of absolute, undeniable authority. A psychic shockwave, visible as a faint shimmer in the air, emanated from Kai, washing over the land, silent and unstoppable. His challenge to the distant God Emperor wasn't spoken. It was a psychic roar, a concept branded directly onto the fabric of spacetime, a declaration of sovereignty that would be heard galaxies away. Inside the makeshift command center of Camp Dawn, every person, scouts, technicians, survivors, collapsed. They clutched their heads, groaning. The psychic wave hit them not as a sound, but as a pure, undiluted concept pressed into their minds. This world is under my sky. The words weren't in any language they knew, yet the meaning was absolute. It was the territorial claim of a god, a final, irrevocable decree. They felt the crushing weight of his will, the chilling finality of his proclamation. As the echo faded, The camp was a scene of emotional carnage. Some were openly weeping, overwhelmed. Others trembled uncontrollably. A hardened scout stared into the distance, his face pale with a new kind of fear. Maya pushed herself up from her desk, rubbing her temples, her breath ragged. "Did you feel that?" she asked, her voice strained. Lorenzo, leaning against the console, looked shaken. Everyone did. It wasn't a transmission. It was a software update. For the soul, he just declared war on a galactic empire and served the eviction notice to our faces. Back on the range, Kai turned, his back to the survivors. He began to walk toward the shimmering partition in the mountain. As he passed the small, perfect circle of grass he created earlier, it began to expand. With each step he took, a green meadow spread, vibrant flowers blooming in his wake on the barren, blasted rock. He didn't look back. He was an artist leaving his signature, indifferent to the audience. He reached the opalescent tunnel of light and stepped inside. The colossal stone doors of the mountain, each a slab of granite half a mile high, slid shut with silent, seamless precision. The mountain was whole again, leaving no trace it was ever open. The world fell silent once more. The alien ships were gone. The sky was clear. But the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, charged with the terrifying knowledge of what now resided within that mountain. The survivors slowly emerged from their tents and shelters. They didn't celebrate. They didn't cheer. They just stared, first at the now ordinary mountain, then at the impossible meadow flourishing on the cliffside. The contrast was a stark reminder of the power they'd just witnessed. A voice came over the coms, barely a whisper. Command. What are our orders? What do we do now? Maya looked at the faces of her people, a mixture of profound relief, existential terror, and utter confusion. Her gaze settled on the mountain. It was once a mystery, a source of strange phenomena. Now, it was the confirmed sanctum of a being beyond their comprehension. She keyed the all-camp comm, her voice tired but resonating with newfound clarity. We do what we've always done. We survive. But we update our parameters. We are no longer survivors on a dead world. We are neighbors to that. She pointed a trembling finger at the mountain. Our primary directive is now, and forever, observation and non-interference. We bear witness. That is our role. That is our only path to survival. Back in his pocket dimension, Kai received a new report from his domain steward. Master, your engagement has been noted. Subspace ripples have attracted new attention. 42 entities, all confirmed at the Divine Vein Realm, that is the 10th Anchor Realm. They have altered their course. Their destination, Earth. Estimated arrival, less than 1 standard week. That night, the camp was lit by the cold glow of emergency lights. Maya was on the radio, broadcasting to other survivor enclaves. I repeat, the immediate extraterrestrial threat has been neutralized. It was eliminated by the entity within the Northern Sanctuary Range. We have designated this entity, the Sovereign. Its capabilities are reality-altering. Its intent toward terrestrial life appears non-hostile, but utterly indifferent. A new warning follows. The engagement has likely drawn further, higher-level attention. Prepare for potential cosmological fallout. Dawn out. She put the microphone down, her shoulders slumping. Lorenzo entered with a data slate. The long-range scanners are picking up new anomalies. Faint, but powerful. They're not like the others. These signatures feel ancient. More are coming, Maya, and they feel different. They feel worse. Maya walked to the window of her tent and looked out at the quiet, looming mountain. The temporary relief of survival was gone, replaced by the chilling understanding that they were merely spectators with front-row seats to a conflict whose scale they could barely begin to grasp. Inside his realm, Kai's voice was cold, a statement of fact. It's time to stop cultivating for perfection and start cultivating for war. He now stood amidst a storm of holographic forges. Blueprints for cosmic weapons, divine formations, and reality-bending artifacts swirled around him. His expression was no longer serene, it was one of focused, divine wrath. Outside, Camp Dawn sat like a tiny, fragile island of fearful light in an ocean of darkness. Every survivor staring at the silent, impassive mountain, source of their salvation and their new dread. And in the void, a holographic star chart ignited with 42 new, dreadfully bright signatures, converging with terrifying, unified purpose on a single blue-green world. We are the neighbors of a god. What should Camp Dawn do next? Advise Maya in the comments. The 42 Divine Realm experts are coming. Can Kai win? Let us know what you think. Subscribe to our channel. The Mortal's Perspective continues in the next episode. Thanks for watching.